She's faking it again, Marcus announced to the family as I struggled to catch my breath at the dinner table. Emily's always been weak, using her health issues to get attention. My vision blurred as I gripped the edge of my chair, trying to stay upright while my brother continued his performance. My name is Emily, and at 32, I'd spent the last year battling mysterious symptoms that no one in my family believed were real. The dizziness, the chronic fatigue, the sudden episodes of weakness. According to my older brother Marcus, it was all an elaborate act to avoid adult responsibilities. Maybe if you actually worked a real job instead of your little online business, you wouldn't have time to invent medical problems. Marcus continued, cutting into his steak while our parents exchanged worried glances. Real people push through their issues. They don't collapse at every family dinner. I wanted to respond, to defend myself, but the room was spinning too fast. The familiar metallic taste filled my mouth as spots danced across my vision. I need to. Before I could finish, everything went black. I woke up on the dining room floor, my mother's concerned face hovering above me while Dad called 911. Marcus stood in the corner, arms crossed, rolling his eyes. Congratulations, Emily. You've ruined another family dinner. Hope you're happy. The EMTs arrived quickly, checking my vitals and asking questions about my medical history. Marcus jumped in before I could speak. She's been doing this for attention since we were kids. Always the fragile one, always needing special treatment. Don't waste your time. The lead EMT, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, turned to him with a sharp look. Sir, unless you're her medical proxy, I need to hear from the patient. She helped me onto the stretcher, ignoring Marcus's scoffs. In the ambulance, I tried to explain my symptoms to Sarah. The episodes had started a year ago, shortly after Marcus moved back home following his divorce. Each time I had an attack, he'd be there, telling everyone how I was just being dramatic, how I needed to toughen up. Your brother seems to have a lot of opinions about your health, Sarah observed, taking my blood pressure. Has he always been like this? I thought back to our childhood. Marcus had always been the strong one, the athlete, the achiever. I was the quiet one, more interested in computers and digital art. When I started my online design business, he called it a hobby. When it became successful, he said I was lucky. Nothing I did was ever good enough. At the hospital, the doctors ran tests while Marcus continued his commentary to our parents in the waiting room. She's probably just stressed because her little website isn't making money. Some people can't handle real life. What Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my little website had become a six-figure business. I kept my success quiet, tired of his dismissals and criticisms. But as I lay in the hospital bed, watching nurses draw vial after vial of blood, I realized something else I'd kept quiet: how often these episodes happened when Marcus was around. The next morning, Dr. Patterson, a neurologist, came to my room with a concerned expression. Miss Sullivan, I've reviewed your preliminary tests, and something unusual caught my attention. She glanced at my chart. Your blood work shows elevated levels of a particular substance. Have you been taking any medications? I shook my head. Just vitamins. She nodded slowly. I'd like to run some additional tests. And she hesitated. I'd prefer if you didn't have visitors for the next 24 hours. Marcus's voice boomed from the doorway. You can't keep me from seeing my sister. I'm family. He strode in, carrying a cup of coffee. Here, Emily, I brought you your favorite. Black, 2 sugars. I frowned. I don't take sugar in my coffee. Dr. Patterson's eyes narrowed, watching as Marcus set the cup on my bedside table. Sir, I need to ask you to leave. We're about to begin some procedures. Fine, Marcus sighed dramatically. Emily, drink your coffee before it gets cold. At least try to show some gratitude. As he left, Dr. Patterson quickly picked up the coffee cup. I think we'll add this to our tests as well. Something in her tone made my heart race. The way Marcus had insisted on bringing me coffee, even though he knew I drank it black. The timing of my episodes, always when he was around. The pieces were starting to fit together, forming a picture I didn't want to see. Dr. Patterson placed a gentle hand on my arm. Emily, I need to ask you something important. How long has your brother been bringing you drinks? The question hit me like a thunderbolt. Every family dinner, every visit, Marcus insisting on getting my water, my coffee, my tea. Always playing the caring brother while telling everyone how weak I was. I need security in here, Dr. Patterson said quietly into her phone. and please contact the police. We have a situation. As I sat there, watching the doctor seal the coffee cup in an evidence bag, I realized this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of uncovering a truth that would shake my family to its core. The next 48 hours were a blur of police interviews, medical tests, and shocking revelations. The coffee Marcus brought to my hospital room contained dangerous levels of beta blockers, medication he'd been prescribed after his divorce for anxiety. The same substance showed up in my blood work, explaining my episodes of weakness and fainting. Detective Morgan, a stern woman with kind eyes, sat by my bed reviewing the evidence. We found similar medications in your system dating back months. Your brother had access to your home, your food, your drinks. I nodded, still struggling to process everything. He moved back in with our parents 6 months ago. Their house is just down the street from mine. He started coming over all the time, saying he was worried about me living alone. Worried about you, she repeated, making notes. Yet he consistently told people you were faking your symptoms. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus had spent months convincing everyone I was mentally unstable, weak, seeking attention, all while systematically poisoning me. The perfect cover: make the victim seem unreliable while slowly breaking them down. My parents arrived looking shell-shocked. Mom's eyes were red from crying. Dad couldn't meet my gaze. We didn't know, Mom whispered, clutching her handbag. He kept saying you needed help, that you were struggling with the business, that we needed to push you to be stronger. Mrs. Sullivan, Detective Morgan interrupted gently, your son is facing serious charges. We found evidence on his phone. He'd been researching these medications, calculating doses. This wasn't accidental. Dad sank into a chair, his face ashen. But why? Emily's his sister. Why would he do this? The answer came from an unexpected source. Marcus's ex-wife, Diane, contacted the police after seeing the news. She arrived at the hospital with a stack of journals. Marcus's private writings from before their divorce. He was obsessed with control, Diane explained, her hands shaking as she handed the journals to Detective Morgan. When Emily's business started taking off, he couldn't handle it. She was succeeding while his life was falling apart. The journals, they're disturbing. He wrote about making her dependent, proving she was weak without him. The detective read through the pages, her expression darkening. He planned this for months. The divorce was just the trigger. When did Emily's business start showing significant growth? About a year ago, I said quietly. I landed some major clients, expanded my team. Marcus kept calling it beginner's luck, saying it wouldn't last. That's when he started getting aggressive about Emily's health issues, Mom added, realization dawning on her face. He insisted on bringing food to family dinners, always served Emily himself. Detective Morgan nodded grimly. Classic control behavior. Make the victim appear unstable while creating actual health problems. If nobody believes them, they can't get help. The hospital kept me under observation for another week, monitoring my system as it cleared the medications. Each day brought more strength, more clarity. The fog I'd been living under slowly lifted, revealing just how calculated Marcus's actions had been. Security cameras from my home, installed months ago when I started feeling unsafe, provided the final evidence. Footage showed Marcus entering while I was working, adding something to my water pitcher, my coffee maker, even my tea bags. The worst part, he often filmed my episodes on his phone, showing them to family members as proof of my mental state. Each video now served as evidence against him, showing how he'd orchestrated my declining health while playing the concerned brother. My parents struggled with guilt, remembering how they'd sided with Marcus. We should have listened, Dad said one evening, his voice heavy. All those times you said something wasn't right. He manipulated everyone, I reminded them, though part of me still hurt from their dismissal. He knew exactly what he was doing. The business I'd worked so hard to build had suffered during my mysterious illness. But now, with my mind clear and strength returning, I could finally focus on rebuilding. My team had kept things running, proving Marcus wrong about its stability. As I prepared to leave the hospital, Dr. Patterson shared something that chilled me to the bone. The doses were increasing, she said, reviewing my charts. If you hadn't collapsed at that dinner, if we hadn't caught this, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus hadn't just wanted to control me. His endgame was much darker. Detective Morgan visited one last time before my discharge. He's not getting out anytime soon, she'd assured me. The evidence is overwhelming. The journals, the videos, the security footage, he documented his own crime. I looked out the hospital window, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. For the first time in months, my vision was clear, my mind sharp. Marcus had called me weak, had tried to break me down. But in the end, he only proven one thing. I was stronger than he ever imagined. But this wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of my recovery, and I had one more surprise in store for my brother. One that would show him exactly who the weak one really was. 6 months after leaving the hospital, I stood at the podium of a packed conference hall, preparing to give the keynote speech at the National Digital Entrepreneurs Summit. The irony wasn't lost on me. My little website had become one of the most talked about success stories in the industry. Today, I'm not just here to talk about business growth. I began, my voice steady and strong. I'm here to discuss something more important, recognizing and surviving domestic abuse, even when it comes from your own family. In the audience, I could see my parents, tears in their eyes but pride on their faces. Next to them sat Detective Morgan and Dr. Patterson, both of whom had become unexpected allies in my journey. The security footage from my house had become a training tool for medical professionals, helping them identify signs of deliberate poisoning in domestic situations. My brother spent months convincing everyone I was weak. I continued, while systematically poisoning me to prove his point. But strength isn't about physical power, it's about resilience, about rising when others try to break you down. The business hadn't just survived during my recovery, it had thrived. The story of my brother's attempt to destroy me had resonated with people worldwide. My client list had tripled, and I'd launched a foundation helping victims of family abuse rebuild their lives through entrepreneurship. Marcus's trial was set for next month, but I wasn't worried. The evidence was overwhelming, and his journals had revealed the full extent of his jealousy and manipulation. His ex-wife Diane had become a key witness, sharing years of documented controlling behavior. When the hospital records exposed the truth, I told the audience, they didn't just reveal my brother's crimes. They showed me who really needed help, someone so insecure. The foundation's first initiative was a partnership with the hospital where I'd been treated. We created a support system for victims of family abuse, especially those whose stories weren't believed. Dr. Patterson headed the medical team, specializing in identifying cases of deliberate poisoning. My parents had thrown themselves into helping, trying to make amends for their years of dismissing my concerns. Mom volunteered at the foundation, working with families struggling to accept that their loved ones could be capable of such betrayal. Dad used his business connections to secure funding for victim support programs. The same security cameras my brother mocked as paranoid provided the evidence that stopped him. I continued. Sometimes, trusting your instincts means being willing to protect yourself, even when others call you dramatic. The business had expanded into creating security systems specifically designed for domestic abuse survivors. Every system included hidden cameras, drink testing kits, and direct links to emergency services. The first batch had been donated to women's shelters across the country. Detective Morgan had become a regular speaker at our foundation events, teaching others how to recognize signs of systematic abuse. The videos Marcus took to mock me now served as educational materials, showing how abusers often document their own crimes while trying to discredit their victims. Today, standing here, I said, approaching the end of my speech, I'm no longer the weak sister my brother tried to create. His attempts to destroy me only made me stronger, more determined to help others find their voice. Last week, I'd received a letter from Marcus in jail. He'd written about how sorry he was, how he needed help, how prison was too harsh for a family matter. I didn't respond. His words, like the coffee he used to bring me, were just another form of poison. Success isn't just about business growth or profit margins, I concluded. It's about surviving, thriving, and using your experience to lift others up. My brother called me weak, but he taught me something valuable. True strength lies in how you rise after others try to break you down. The standing ovation that followed wasn't just for me. It was for every person who'd ever been called dramatic, weak, or attention-seeking when they were actually fighting for their lives. It was for every survivor who turned their pain into purpose. As I left the stage, my parents embraced me, whispering proud apologies and words of love. Detective Morgan smiled knowingly. She'd seen countless cases like mine, but few with such a transformative ending. Dr. Patterson handed me the latest statistics from our hospital program. Dozens of cases identified, lives saved, families healed. My phone buzzed with a notification. Another donation to the foundation. Another survivor reaching out for help. Another story waiting to be heard. The weak sister had built something powerful, something lasting, something that would help others find their strength. Marcus had tried to write my story as a tragedy. Instead, he inadvertently helped create a movement. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, growing stronger, and helping others do the same. The hospital records hadn't just told my story, they'd helped me write a new one, not just for myself, but for everyone who needed to know that being called weak doesn't make it true. Sometimes it just means you're strong enough to threaten someone else's control.